From a casting disaster that almost killed the film, to real-life killers inspiring its most chilling scenes, here are 15 weird facts about Dirty Harry. 1971 You Never Knew. Clint Eastwood's performance as Inspector Harry Callahan is so iconic today that it's hard to imagine anyone else squinting down the barrel of that .44 Magnum. But in 1970, Eastwood wasn't the studio's first choice. He wasn't even second or third. He was the last name on a long and desperate list. Warner Brothers originally wanted none other than Frank Sinatra to play Dirty Harry. At the time, Sinatra was one of Hollywood's biggest stars and brought the right mix of charisma and edge. The studio envisioned Old Blue Eyes as a world-weary San Francisco cop delivering lines like, "Do you feel lucky?" with cool, effortless swagger. But fate intervened. Sinatra injured his hand during another film and couldn't hold the heavy point, .44 Magnum revolver that would become the movie's signature weapon. With Sinatra out, Warner Brothers scrambled. They approached John Wayne next, but the Duke thought the script was too violent. Then came Steve McQueen, who turned it down because he didn't want to be typecast after Bullitt. Paul Newman rejected it too, calling the film fascist filmmaking and warning that audiences might not like a cop who plays by his own rules. By then, the studio was panicking. The project was dying fast. That's when someone remembered Clint Eastwood, the quiet cowboy from those low-budget spaghetti westerns. He wasn't a major Hollywood name yet, but he had the intensity, the glare, and the minimalism the role demanded. Out of desperation, they offered him the part. Eastwood said yes immediately. No rewrites, no hesitation. It wasn't destiny that made Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry. It was pure Hollywood desperation. Yet, ironically, that last-minute choice became cinematic gold. The villain in Dirty Harry, the Scorpio Killer, wasn't just a creepy character dreamt up by screenwriters. He was based directly on one of the most terrifying real-life murderers in American history, the Zodiac Killer. Just 2 years before Dirty Harry went into production, San Francisco was gripped by fear. The real Zodiac Killer was on the loose, taunting police and the public with handwritten letters and cryptic codes mailed to newspapers. He targeted random victims, couples parked on lovers' lanes, lone pedestrians, and claimed responsibility for murders across Northern California. Screenwriters Harry Julian Fink and Rita M. Fink didn't have to stretch their imaginations. They lifted real details from the Zodiac case, the anonymous letters, the newspaper threats, the ransom demands, even the tone of mocking arrogance. The Scorpio Killer's crimes mirrored the Zodiac so closely that audiences in San Francisco recognized the parallels immediately. According to Wikipedia, San Francisco Police Inspector Dave Toschi, one of the actual detectives on the Zodiac case, worked as a consultant for the movie. He advised Clint Eastwood and director Don Siegel on investigative details and police behavior. But there was an eerie twist. The real Zodiac case remained unsolved when the film came out, meaning that as audiences watched Harry Callahan catch and kill the fictional killer, the real murderer was still out there, possibly even watching the movie himself. The line between fiction and reality blurred in ways that made Dirty Harry more disturbing than anyone expected. The city's wounds were still fresh, and suddenly Hollywood was putting them on display for the world to see. Clint Eastwood has always had a reputation for toughness, but during the filming of Dirty Harry, that toughness was tested to the limit. In one of the film's most memorable action scenes, the rooftop chase, Eastwood insisted on doing his own stunts. The production team begged him to let a stunt double-handle the jumps across crumbling San Francisco rooftops, but Eastwood refused. "Harry wouldn't quit," he reportedly said. "Neither will I." The stunt nearly killed him. During one take, Eastwood jumped from one rooftop to another, but the landing surface was rotted and unstable. The wooden structure collapsed under his weight. Eastwood fell 12 feet through splintered boards and crashed onto a concrete floor below. Crew members rushed over, finding him unconscious, bleeding from a deep cut on his forehead and suffering a dislocated shoulder. When he woke up, Eastwood refused to go to the hospital. He reset his shoulder, wiped off the blood, and kept shooting. The result? The blood seen on his face during the final chase sequence isn't makeup, it's real. That moment of raw, painful authenticity made the scene unforgettable. It's no wonder Eastwood became known for his stoic, iron-willed performances. In Dirty Harry, he wasn't just playing a tough cop, he was one Behind the camera, things were just as tense. Director Don Siegel was a veteran filmmaker known for gritty, uncompromising stories, but Dirty Harry pushed boundaries even for him. When Warner Brothers executives saw early footage, they were horrified. The tone was too dark, the violence too explicit, and the message, a cop ignoring the law to serve justice, was too controversial for 1971 audiences.
What are you talking about?
You need a partner.
What's the matter with the partner I've got?
Studio head Ted Ashley flew to San Francisco with orders to fire Siegel and bring in a more commercial director. But Clint Eastwood wasn't having it. Eastwood had earned final cut approval in his contract, a rare privilege for an actor. When he heard about the studio's plan, he confronted the executives directly. His message was simple: you fire him, you lose me. That one sentence saved the movie. The studio backed down but kept a close eye on production. They stationed a Warner Brothers representative on set every day for the rest of filming, monitoring Siegel's every decision. The director later joked, "It felt like making a movie with a gun to my head." But under that pressure, Siegel delivered. His fearless direction and Eastwood's loyalty gave Dirty Harry its gritty soul, the edge that made it legendary. Few lines in film history are as instantly recognizable as, "You've got to ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk?"
You've got to ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
It's the line that defined an entire generation of action heroes, and it wasn't even in the script. In the original screenplay, the moment was written as a long-winded, traditional police monologue. Harry Callahan was supposed to deliver a detailed speech about his weapon, his training, and the odds of survival. But when the camera started rolling, Eastwood felt it didn't fit the tone. It was too stiff, too wordy. He asked director Don Siegel if he could try something different, something shorter, rawer, more instinctive. What came out of his mouth in that take was pure lightning. You've got to ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? When Siegel yelled, "Cut!" the set erupted in applause. Even the actor playing the wounded bank robber, Albert Popwell, couldn't help but grin. The line was so natural, so brutally confident, that it instantly cemented Harry Callahan as the ultimate tough guy. That improvised line went on to become one of the most quoted phrases in cinematic history, a blueprint for every hard-edged action hero that came after. From Die Hard's John McClane to Lethal Weapon's Martin Riggs, they all owe a little something to Eastwood's off-the-cuff genius. At first, San Francisco's police department played ball. The production had access to real locations, technical advisors, and uniformed officers who helped shape the details. That cooperation didn't last. Once some of the officers saw the full script and watched early footage of Harry Callahan bending rules and blasting through red tape, they were done. To them, Harry wasn't a hero. He was a problem, a vigilante with a badge who made real police work look lawless and brutal. Within 3 weeks, more than 24 SFPD officers who had been working as consultants and background extras walked off set. The message was loud and clear. This movie crossed a line. The production scrambled. Instead of real officers, they hired actors in police uniforms and brought in private security to control crowds and block streets. Ironically, the protest backfired in one way. The media loved the drama. Headlines about police anger only fueled interest. The walkout made Dirty Harry feel even more dangerous, exactly the reputation that would turn it into a phenomenon. Before Dirty Harry, the Smith & Wesson Model 29, that famous .44 Magnum, was niche. It was a heavy, punishing revolver prized by collectors and used by hunters, not something you'd find in every glass case. Then came Harry Callahan, lifting it into frame and calling it the most powerful handgun in the world. Overnight, the gun wasn't just a prop, it was a star. Demand exploded, gun stores reported long waiting lists. Smith & Wesson couldn't keep up. The Model 29 became a status symbol for gun enthusiasts, and, troublingly, a target for criminals who wanted the same weapon the movies said could end a fight with one shot. Police departments and federal agencies noticed crimes involving .44 Magnums ticked up. Whether it was the power, the mystique, or the movie's swagger, the effect was real. That left law enforcement and studios with uncomfortable questions. How much do movies influence behavior? When a character turns a weapon into an icon, does the real world pay the price? Dirty Harry didn't create America's gun obsession, but it poured gasoline on it and forced Hollywood to think harder about the way it glamorizes firepower. When Harry goes after the hijacked school bus, the big bridge-to-bus leap looks like one continuous act of madness. It wasn't. It was 3. To sell the illusion, the production split the sequence into separate jumps: bridge to moving truck, truck to bus, and finally onto the bus roof, each handled by a different stunt performer.
Say hello to Chico Gonzalez. He'll be working with you.
Al, you've got to be kidding. I haven't got the time to break in any newcomers.
There were no safety nets stretched below, no green screens, no digital touch-ups. Just speed, timing, and a few inches between life and disaster. One stuntman cracked ribs. Another suffered a concussion, but the camera rolled and the cuts are seamless, which is why the scene still feels dangerous today. You can sense the weight of real bodies meeting real metal at real speed. That old-school approach, plan it, mark it, risk it, is a big reason Dirty Harry still hits hard. It's not just style, it's gravity. Modern action often looks bigger, but rarely feels heavier. Here, you feel the drop, the scrape, the slam. It's not pretty, it's thrilling. Harry Callahan didn't walk out of a writer's room fully formed. He was built from the ground up, piece by piece, using real cops who had lived the job. The writers rode along with San Francisco inspectors and borrowed what they needed. The methodical grind of one, the permanent fight with bureaucracy from another, and the hard edge, the willingness to bend a rule to stop a worse outcome from a third. The names you'll hear tied to the inspiration include Inspector Dave Toschi and his colleagues. Their cases were ugly, high pressure, and often thankless. The writers saw it up close, the late nights, the dead ends, and the sense that the system could be both necessary and maddening. Out of that came Harry. Not a superhero, not a saint, but a man who carried the city's anger on his back and decided he'd rather ask forgiveness than permission. That's why Harry reads as real, even when he's larger than life. He's stitched together from actual habits, actual arguments, and actual scars. You can disagree with his methods. A lot of people did, but you can't say he's fake. He's a mirror, cracked but honest, of a time and a place where the rules didn't always catch the monsters. Before Dirty Harry, mainstream movies didn't spend much time inside the heads of repeat killers. It was too ugly, too specific, too close to the evening news. Then Scorpio hit the screen, taunting the city, writing letters, playing games, and audiences couldn't look away. The film wasn't a horror story, not exactly, but it scratched at the same fear. The idea of an unstoppable predator and the obsessed cop who hunts him. Studios noticed. Suddenly, serial killers weren't just too dark, they were bankable. The door cracked open by Dirty Harry swung wide over the next decade. Filmmakers leaned into the psychology, the ritual, the chess match between killer and hunter. The result was a wave of movies that defined modern fear: masked stalkers, coded threats, and detectives who drowned themselves in the case. You can draw a line, straight if not simple, from Dirty Harry to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and eventually The Silence of the Lambs. Was this the plan? Not at all. Dirty Harry set out to tell a cop story torn from San Francisco's headlines. What it accidentally did was help shape a genre, the lethal dance between a methodical killer and the person willing to break themselves chasing him. If that feels familiar now, it's because Dirty Harry helped write the template. Andrew Robinson's portrayal of the Scorpio Killer is still one of the most disturbing performances in cinema history. Nervous, manic, and unpredictable, Robinson's character gave Dirty Harry its raw, terrifying edge. But what most audiences didn't know was that his performance wasn't just imagination, it was built from real FBI case files. Before filming began, Robinson and the production team studied declassified documents from FBI behavioral analysis reports. These included detailed profiles of real serial killers, their movements, communication habits, and psychological patterns. Robinson wanted to understand the why behind their violence. He worked with FBI consultants and criminal psychologists to get inside the mind of a predator. He later admitted that the research haunted him. "I had to crawl inside the mind of a monster," he said years later. "Getting back out was harder than I expected." His performance was so believable that audiences started sending him hate mail after the movie's release. Some even sent death threats, convinced he really was the twisted killer they saw on screen. Robinson spent years being typecast as villains before finally moving into other roles. But his work in Dirty Harry remains chilling precisely because it feels real. His Scorpio isn't a cartoon villain. He's a reflection of the kind of darkness that actually walks the world. When Dirty Harry premiered, it didn't just get critics talking, it got lawyers talking too. One scene in particular, set inside a police station, became a lightning rod for controversy and even entered academic discussion.
No way. Now, you're working with Gonzalez or you're not working. Now, that's straight from the 5th floor. You got it?
I got it.
In that scene, Inspector Callahan captures Scorpio and tries to force information out of him, without reading him his Miranda rights, without legal counsel, and without a warrant. It's a brutal moment. Harry's frustration is palpable. He knows the killer is guilty, but the system's rules prevent him from stopping the bloodshed in time. According to Wikipedia, that scene became so famous that it started being used as a teaching example in law schools across the United States. Professors used it to spark debates on constitutional rights, due process, and the moral limits of law enforcement. It even inspired a term in legal circles known as the Dirty Harry problem, the moral question of whether breaking the law to serve justice can ever be justified. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, condemned the movie for glorifying police brutality, while many officers praised it for showing the frustrations of real-world policing. Law professors saw it as the perfect case study in ethics. Can the ends ever justify the means? Dirty Harry wasn't just entertainment. It became a social mirror, forcing America to look at its justice system and decide which was scarier, the criminals or the people chasing them. Sometimes the most iconic movie looks aren't designed, they just happen. That was the case with Harry Callahan's signature outfit. The brown leather jacket, dark slacks, and simple white shirt that became the blueprint for every tough cop aesthetic that followed. Clint Eastwood showed up to the first day of filming wearing his own clothes. He wasn't trying to make a fashion statement. It was just what he wore in real life. Director Don Siegel took one look at him and said, "Don't change a thing." The jacket was Eastwood's personal favorite, one he'd owned for years. The holster was also his idea, chosen after researching how real San Francisco detectives carried their weapons. There were no designer fittings, no elaborate wardrobe meetings, just authenticity, and it worked. That effortless realism became part of Harry's charm. His clothes weren't flashy or heroic. They were practical, lived in, and unpretentious, just like the man himself. Costume designers later tried to replicate that look for sequels and copycat movies, but none of them ever quite captured the raw simplicity of Eastwood's accidental style. In the world of cinema, you can't fake real. And that's what made Harry Callahan's wardrobe unforgettable. The opening bank robbery sequence in Dirty Harry sets the tone for the entire film. Gritty, tense, and uncomfortably real. That realism wasn't an accident. It came from the expertise of people who actually knew what robbing a bank felt like. Casting director Tim Scudder wanted the scene to feel authentic, so he recruited several former bank robbers who had served prison time and were now trying to rebuild their lives. They worked as consultants on the set, advising the actors on everything from how to hold a gun to how real robbers move and react during a heist. One of these ex-cons, who had spent nearly a decade in prison, told the production team, "Hollywood always gets it wrong. Real robbers aren't cool or calm. They're scared, desperate, and making it up as they go." His insight changed everything. Under his guidance, the actors playing the robbers stopped trying to look like movie criminals and started acting like real ones. Nervous, twitchy, unpredictable, the result was a bank robbery scene that felt almost documentary-like in its intensity. This unconventional decision gave Dirty Harry an authenticity few crime films of its era could match. It wasn't stylized violence, it was chaos, fast, sloppy, and frighteningly human. When Dirty Harry exploded in theaters, not everyone was cheering. Across the world, the movie sparked moral panic. Some governments saw it not as a crime thriller, but as dangerous propaganda for vigilante justice. In the United Kingdom, censors refused to grant it a release certificate at first, calling it dangerously irresponsible. West Germany went even further, banning the film entirely for 3 years. Australia allowed only a heavily edited version to screen, cutting out several of the most violent sequences. Critics in these countries accused the film of glorifying police brutality and encouraging citizens to take the law into their own hands. Ironically, the backlash only made the film more popular. Bootleg copies circulated on the black market, and underground screenings sold out instantly. The movie became forbidden fruit, the film people weren't supposed to see but had to.